Hey, welcome to the table at Central. My name is Isaiah,
And I'm George.
and we're here to talk about the themes, stories, and culture that are central to our church. All right, man. So we just entered into a new season here at Central Church.
Right.
We've got a new series called Seeds. It's today starts tomorrow, or tomorrow starts today.
Tomorrow starts today.
Tomorrow starts today.
I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it does.
Yeah.
It started just now.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so I'm really excited about Pastor Paul's message this week because I felt like it was super timely for me. And the best part about it was there's just two simple points, right? It's seeds carry potential and seeds are small.
Yeah.
And I think those are the 2 points that we could just dive into today. Seeds carrying potential, he came out of Genesis chapter 1, verses 11 to 12 and verse 29, talking about let the earth sprout vegetation, plants yielding seed, and fruit trees bearing fruit, in which is their seed, each according to its kind on the earth. So really just talking about the nature of like seed is a part of God growing us from the beginning, from the opening of the Bible. So when we think about this and the idea of the potential that a seed can carry, what does that do for you? Do you feel like as a disciple, it's important to recognize that dynamic?
Yeah. He said something like, seeds carry potential. He said, everything you need for sustenance is found in a seed.
Absolutely.
Which I think is like I feel like when we're living our lives and making decisions, when we're kind of just going through everyday life, I think the lie is that we believe is that we need all of these big things. We need to make these big decisions. We need to make these big moves. We need a big career, and we need, the big relationships, and we need big moments, and a big life is built off big moments, right? Everything is big. And I think that can happen, but it's very rare. A lot of our lives are actually built on the small things.
Absolutely.
And so I think he did a good job of helping us shift our mindset, knowing that the small things are found in seeds, and what we need for sustenance is found in seeds.
Absolutely.
I think that's super powerful. And yeah, as a disciple of Christ, knowing that those small things in our lives are the ones that carry us through is a good reminder. I think what it made me think about is, the small things that we do every day, like I'm going to read my Bible, I'm going to pray, I'm going to, it's in the small interactions that we have with God and the small interactions that we have with each other that amount to something big. God uses those small things and he makes them into something big. I think it takes faith.
Yeah, it does.
It takes faith to live that way, because it's kind of like, I think I would rather, focus on the big things. Sometimes it's more fun. Sometimes it's more attractive to focus on the big things. But it takes faith to be like, you know what, God, I'm gonna live my life by these, planting these small seeds, hoping, praying, that having faith that you're gonna do something great with these things.
Yeah, and I think what I like about that is you're talking about the biblical principles, but one thing that Pastor Paul did really well was he took that same notion similar to the opening of Genesis, and it's just the dynamic that's stitched into the world we live in. You know, he talked about the idea of just finances, just making small financial decisions and how that compounds and grows into something. But before it grew, it was a thing of potential. And I think that's what it brought me to. It was like not just, I want to read my word and I want to make these small seed-like decisions for my faith, but also reframing that like things have process, that things don't happen immediately. There's not immediacy to everything. And honestly, the stuff that's meaningful doesn't happen in immediacy. It doesn't. It takes time. So it's like he gave some of the tools and was kind of suggesting to fall in love with that potential, to fall in love with that part of the process. And I think if we can do that as people, it's almost like a superpower. It's like patience that comes from the Lord, that you get to take into everything. The way that I think about my daughter, I think about Dea, and I'm like, trying to teach her little lessons, little
Yeah.
ideas. And I felt affirmed in those seeds
Yeah.
while I was thinking about this concept as well.
Yeah.
You know, how, you know, say thank you after you receive
Right.
something, or
Yeah.
even what she's watching, what she's consuming as a kid. It's like,
Yeah.
those are small and seed-like decisions that grow into potential. So if I can respect that dynamic, honor that dynamic that God has stitched into everything,
Yeah.
it makes me more impactful.
Right.
And who doesn't want to be more impactful?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Something I like that he talked about was he talked about how seeds have no prejudice. Like it doesn't matter who's
that was a
planting
good
them.
one. Yeah,
Like
was
that little bit that he had about, you know, it's just, it doesn't matter who's planting them. What matters is that they're planted.
That's right.
You know,
There's equity in that
exactly.
regard.
And then he talked about, you know, you have to cultivate, you have to care, you got to water those seeds. But at the end of the day, like a seed that I plant is not going to grow more than the same seed that you plant, because it's you. Like it's a seed being planted, and so like it kind of levels the playing field for everybody. Like it's something that's kind of a universal thing for all of us to understand. Like this principle applies to all of us. So we can't listen to these concepts and be like, well, that works for you.
Right.
Well, you know, you have this background, or you know, you are a pastor. You know what I mean? Like it's like this is for all of us.
That's like saying, 1 + 1 might equal 2 for you.
Right.
But for me,
it's 3.
Yeah. Like, no, you know, it's the truth.
Yeah.
This truth. And that's why I love it. That's why I think the fact that you can find it in the first couple verses of the word, and it's echoing itself through everything that has to do with life. Yeah. And that's how God is as a creator. You know what I mean? And then he says, you get to also, I made you in my image. So now you get to have that creative intentionality with the way you live your life. If you plant those seeds, you are like a seed I planted. Right. And look at you blossoming. Yeah. So what will you go and do, and how will you steward this seed? Yeah. And so I think that's why I'm excited about the series too. Yeah. I think, you know, we're going to talk about God's seed. And I'm low key guessing, but I know that that's probably where we're headed as we start looking at like 1 John and stuff like that. Yeah. But the second point also I think comes in here too, where we talk about the fact that seeds are small. What about you? Do you feel like small things, you cherish small things, or is there a difficulty in cherishing small things sometimes?
I think it's been a learning process. I think that as I get older, you start to realize how important they are. You know, I think I've definitely been learning that in marriage. You know, when I was single, I feel like, you're kind of chasing like all of these big things, and not that that's over, but now like in marriage, what really fulfills me is the small things. You know, like what brings me peace, what makes me happy is spending small moments with my wife. Yeah. You know, it's like the small things. It's not like the big moments. It's like something as simple as, at the end of the day, me and her have dinner together and we sit together and we watch TV, and it's like those small things. It's the small moments that I have with friends where we're having a late night conversation at Whataburger. And it's like the small moments help me cherish the small moments in the process that might feel insignificant. Right. You know what I mean? Because it's like, it's easy to cherish those because those are like, you know, they're pretty moments. But then there's the small moments in the process of going somewhere or becoming somebody or becoming something that can sometimes feel so insignificant and almost even frustrating and unfair and painful. And I think learning that in the pretty moments, I can bring that into those moments where it's not as enjoyable, but have that same mindset of these small moments matter. These small moments build something greater. Yeah. And I think that it's also a part of like surrender. It is. Like, you know, it's like surrendering your mindset and surrendering how you live your life, like your lifestyle. Yeah. And just trusting that even these small things that I do that sometimes feel insignificant, God can do more with that I can do with with everything I have.
Right.
You know what I mean?
There's definitely a balance to
Yeah.
it. I think. I think when when you said surrender, it reminded me of renewing my mind. And you don't get your mind renewed by accident.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have to surrender your mind. And I think that that's what the small and the dynamic of the small does.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, it's like I have to rewire and reframe. Because when we go online, I'm telling you, man, when you go online, everything is big.
Yeah.
Everything is the biggest, the best,
pretty.
the brightest.
Yeah.
And then I think about who wants to watch a movie with just big moments?
Right.
Just hot,
yeah.
The ones that are critically acclaimed films, the stories that actually are some of the greatest stories ever told, including Jesus' story, filled with small moments.
Yeah.
Small moments are part of what they stand on,
Right.
So I think when I just heard him say seeds are small, it didn't need to be another point. It didn't need to be another word. It didn't need to rhyme. The point was simple. It was small.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what we need sometimes. We need to be reminded that the small is important.
Yeah.
So when you talk about marriage, yes, I hear you big time. Or even, work. Maybe you're just making a small action, shifting a sheet in Excel or making a cup of coffee,
Yeah.
Those small things. You have opportunities to be present for those things.
Yeah.
And I think God loves that. I think he loves when we're still in that and we behold who he is in those moments. I think I don't want to rush through that. I think we do a lot of rushing.
Right.
That's why plants don't grow fast.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's cool that he put that into the stitching of it all.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
I was going to ask you what specific seeds have you planted in the past that now today, because the whole series is tomorrow starts today. So, there are seeds that I'm planting now that I'm hoping to see grow later, but there's seeds that I planted 1, 2, 3 years ago that I'm seeing grow today. What are some of those seeds? What are some aspects of your life that you've seen that be true?
I think you can go as big as you want in terms of moving and coming down here to Texas. This week is also the week of 2 years anniversary of that.
Yeah.
And it was a big idea filled with Texiversary, baby.
Yeah.
What? But it was a big idea filled with small steps.
Yeah.
Small. I'll take a trip to go check out Texas and see what's. But we had this small feeling in our hearts, hey, I think we're called to make a move, to do something different.
Right.
And it started small, and we watered it and nurtured that seed by exploring.
Yeah.
And now, years later, after going to different cities and figuring things out, now we're here and we're building community. Then you can go to something like that, the idea of community. You can do something as simple as, for me, running. Lately, I've been running a lot. I got my second half marathon this month.
Yeah.
But it starts small. The 5 to 15-minute run actually does make a really big impact in your ability to run 2 hours.
Right.
But you don't think it does.
Right.
You don't feel like it does.
Yeah.
But your body really appreciates the fact that you did that small run. And so, again, the dynamic exists. It's more so, do I have the eyes to see it and to respect it? I think it's almost like it's a muscle, and you're exercising that muscle through all these different facets of life.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, I was listening to Pastor Paul, and I was like, nah, he's going crazy right now. This is such a good, it's so simple, but it's so important, man.
Right.
What about you? What seeds have you planted that you're seeing grow now, 2-3 years later?
I've been thinking the last couple of days, actually, because, we've been in the process of releasing this new music with you and our friend Timmy, and I was shout out Timmy.
Shout out Timmy.
I was reminded of 4 years ago. I don't really journal.
Yeah.
Okay. Context. I don't really journal. I don't really write stuff down. But for whatever reason, 4 years ago, I was in a very low place in my life, and this was before I got to Central, before I moved here to Texas. And it was during the pandemic, and I looked this up the other day, and in my notes, I wrote this long journal entry just about what I was feeling. Again, I don't do that. I probably should more. But for whatever reason, I felt like I should write down what I'm feeling right now, because I just have to believe that a few years from today, I'm going to be in a different place, and I want to look back at what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking in this moment. And so I read it the other day.
Oh, snap.
And one of the things that I wrote down, I won't share the whole thing, obviously. That's between me and
No,
God.
I want all the details, bro.
Yeah. But there's this one line that I wrote about maybe one day I'll have a studio where my friends come and we write music together. And that's literally what you, me, and Timmy have been doing for the last year. Almost a year. And the studio is my office here at the church, but we make it a studio.
That's right.
When we're in there. And for me, it was less about what we were doing and more about the meaning, because I'm a creative and I want to create. And I always just dreamed of providing a space for not just myself, but for my friends and the people that I love, for us to create together.
Yeah.
And that's what that's meant for me. And so 4 years ago, that's what I desired. And so I'm like, I was kind of putting the pieces together. I was working on myself. I was working on getting better at all these creative things, videography and photography and music and all these things, knowing that one day I would be in a place where I could do this with my friends and it'd be fun. And this was also during the pandemic where none of us could even see each other.
Connection was something.
Yeah, connection was gone. And 4 years later, I'm looking back and it's what we've been doing. And it just started with a very small thing. It was a small idea that you and Timmy had, and I was like, well, we can use my office on Sunday nights, and then we just kind of started spitballing, and you guys started writing music. Timmy started making the beats, and you started writing, and it started as a small thing. It wasn't even like we didn't sit down and say like, a year from today we're gonna, like, at the beginning it wasn't anything significant.
Wasn't this big decree.
No, we got together just like, let's just make stuff together because it's fun, because we enjoy it.
That's right.
And it's almost like on the back end of us doing that, I'm like, this is what I had been praying for. This is what I had been wanting, what I had been desiring. And it started with small seeds. And that's super powerful to me to read back from 4 years ago, especially right now in my life where I'm trying to look ahead. I'm trying to look at where I want to go. And sometimes it's a little discouraging, and it's a little frustrating when you're in those seasons of life where you're like, okay, what's next?
Yeah.
God, where do you want me to go? Yeah. It's a good reminder to pause and find something to look back on that you had planted, and seeing how it's grown. Hopefully it's grown. Yeah. And for me, fortunately, and I feel so blessed that something that was an actual prayer of mine that I wrote down, I can look back and I can read it, and then I can look at my life today. And it's something that maybe for others doesn't really mean anything, but for me it means the world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, it's a testament to God's faithfulness to my life.
Yeah, man.
And it's a testament to that when you plant these small seeds and you water them and you cultivate them, you don't know when it's going to happen, but eventually it's going to lead to something. The fruit will happen, but what matters is focusing on, it's that seed, just planting that seed.
So good. So good. Yeah. The mustard seed, faith, scripture, and idea literally sprouted before your eyes in real time. And we think that mustard seed means just for the idea of faith.
Right.
Not a action or a part of the faith, if that makes sense. Yeah. So what you're saying is, by faith, you wrote something so small, and it was like a mustard seed, and you're already seeing it blossom into something that can be so big. Yeah. And it's because God is a big God. Right. So he takes our small things, he takes our small ideas, and if we're willing to just like allow him into that process.
And he cares about the small things.
He cares about the small things.
He cares about our small seeds.
Absolutely. Yeah. He'll take that and he'll do something amazing with it. But even what we decree as amazing, it doesn't have to be this big thing. Right. It could still be small. Yeah. But if you're looking and you're paying attention and you're being present and you're being patient and you cherish and behold it, then you're able to respect that and appreciate what he does. And that's cool, man. I'm glad to be a part of that, first and foremost, for you. because it's the same vice versa. You know, we've had the same conversation in terms of moving here and how that's been found. And that's also what's cool about God.
Yeah.
He scatters a ton of seeds.
Right.
And he's like, yeah, it's about to sprout into something crazy. This is going to be
Yeah.
insane, you know? And then from those seeds come things from us that encourage us to plant more seeds,
Right.
which then encourage other people.
Yeah.
And so that's also what I love that Pastor Paul talked about
Yeah.
too. It's not just like this insular thing where it's just for me and no one else.
Right.
It's like where I'm willing to appreciate the potential in a seed and its size, it can help someone else do that too.
Exactly.
And yeah, man, I think it's so small, but it's a revolutionary way to look at life.
Yeah. I think something worth talking about is what having to plant a small seed doesn't just do for you, but does in you. You know what I mean? Like the process that you submit yourself to when you're like, okay, I believe this. I'm at Central Church. I'm listening to these seeds message series. I'm learning that I have to plant these small seeds in my life. Okay, cool. I agree. Let's do it. And so when you submit yourself to that process, sometimes it's easy to like, okay, yeah, if I plant something small today, God's going to do something great tomorrow. And that's true. But what's more important is, what does God do in you through this process? Because it's not like this transactional thing where you just, okay, if I do this, then I get this, and then I'm here and I'm happy and my life is better. Yeah. Like, yeah, sure, that can be true, but it's in that process of like having the faith to plant something small, and then having the resolve and the discipline to cultivate it and care for it as it grows. It grows something in you that can't be grown otherwise. You know what I mean? Like it's something about having to plant the seed and care for it that your soul, your mind, your heart, like there's healing that happens. It all responds to it, and this process in you, this growth in you can only happen through this process. Yeah. You know what I mean?
You can't take any shortcuts.
You can't take shortcuts. You can't fabricate it. You can't replicate it. It can only happen during this process of planting seeds in your life, and just having the patience to just be like, I'm going to be here until it grows, whether it grows or not. I am staying. That grows something in you that is so important for everyday life.
And it's humbling. It's
Very
humbling, you know, and that goes back to the surrender you mentioned earlier. And I think God loves us so much that he allows that long dynamic, that small dynamic to exist, because he knows that it grows humility in us, and it grows, it's like your arms are open wide, your hands are open to the things that come, because you've been in a posture like this the entire time, you know? And yeah, man, again, we just live in a society where everything is like, what can I grab? What can I hold? What can I make happen as fast as possible? What's the quickest way to get this money? And what's the quickest way to end up in this part of the process? And what's the microwave way to get to? This is an oven baked thing. Yeah. This is such a slow thing. And I think as believers, we need to make that cool again. Like being okay to just take time. Right. Just I'm here to be present with you at the moment. I'm here to be present in this time. When people ask what you're doing, I think almost like in the church, we feel this pressure for you to like know what your vision is for the rest of your life. And don't get me wrong, Proverbs says those who lack vision shall perish. But that's what we're saying. It's, if tomorrow starts today, this is what actual vision, based on what the word says, looks like. It's not knowing what's coming. It's just being willing to be present with where you're going and where you're headed. That's so good. And yeah, man, I hope that as we keep going through this series, those pillars of kind of like foundational ideas of being a believer, I'm excited to see how they sprout. You see what I did there? Sprout, stop playing with me. But yeah, I think it would be really cool to see that and hear the stories from different people in the congregation on how this small potential idea is doing big things.
For sure. Yeah, I think if I'm speaking to somebody that is listening to this and they sat through, week 1 of seeds, and God's kind of working in their hearts and in their minds about these concepts, and hopefully they learned something from this conversation. I'll give an encouragement, and I'll have you give an encouragement to them. But my encouragement to them would be, keep your mind and your heart, like you were saying, like your posture is important through this. And my encouragement is that you keep your heart and your mind open and receptive to what God wants to speak to you about the seeds that he is calling you to plant.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like most of the time, some of these things we already know.
Yeah.
And we're just kind of, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
we already know.
You're stealing my point, but
I'm sorry, but
That's all right.
it's like, it's rarely new news.
Right.
It's usually God confirming something that you've probably already been feeling.
Right.
And so if you're listening to this and there's already something that God's been kind of bugging you about,
Mm-hmm.
just lean into it
Mm-hmm.
and have an open mind and an open heart. Like Isaiah said, have those hands open, and be receptive through this series. That's my encouragement. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, I can't. You took my point.
I'm sorry.
But I'll take it.
Ditto,
I'll take it another step. Nah. I'll take it another step. The next step is, if God told you to do something and to be a good steward of a seed already, and it feels like maybe He lied or it wasn't true because there hasn't been anything sprouting out of that seed just yet. I think this is your encouragement. Keep watering it.
That's good. Yeah.
Let's keep watering it.
Keep watering it.
Don't stop watering it.
Yeah.
If we are called to be people who walk by faith and not by sight, then regardless of if it's sprouting or not, like you said, maybe it's more about being willing to continue to water it, especially if that's what God's promised you, especially if that's what God has said.
Right.
And so that would be my encouragement. And I only can say that because I'm trying to keep watering.
We're all
just trying to keep watering it.
We're doing this thing.
But I believe in the potential that God puts in a seed. I believe, if God believed in me enough to die on the cross, and the potential of what I can do with a life by saving me, then if I take that same heart posture into all of my life, I do think it'll be transformative.
That's good.
And I think that for them too. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, man.
Well, great conversation. We'll see you next week at the table.